Well, hello everybody. I thought I would come on here and I was going to talk about the first Bond experience that I ever had. And um, everybody has their own story of when they went and saw their first Bond movie in the theater. Maybe they were with their dad, maybe they were with friends. A lot of times I've heard a lot of people around my age bracket talk about how, well, my dad got me into James Bond, and it was Sean Connery. Um, and for a lot of people in my age bracket, Roger Moore was actually more of our Bond because that was more around our time when we were just starting to get into Bond. Um, but then you have the other age brackets, some of the newer generation. Brosnan is their Bond, and then there's a new generation of Bond fans where they are being introduced to Bond because of Daniel Craig. And, I got to admit, I almost feel a little sad for some of the individuals when they say, oh, I'm watching my first Bond movie, and they start with Casino Royale. And I think to myself, oh, man, I mean, it's a great movie, but it's kind of like starting with filet mignon and then deciding, well, now let me go out there and sample what other kind of beef there is out there. And, maybe how about ground beef um, or flat steak, or something. You start with the best, and then it almost seems like it makes it hard for the others to live up to it. There's nostalgia, of course, to the older movies and that, but anyway, that's my feeling on it. So I feel kind of bad when I see them starting with Casino Royale, um, which is a great introduction. It's a great way to get into Bond. But then I'm just like, oh, they're gonna watch this though, and then they're gonna have such heavy judgment on the older ones, and they're not gonna get a fair shake. That's always my worry, I think. My first James Bond experience. I was around 13, 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that age bracket. And I was going to go hang out with my older brother and some of his friends. And it was just a sleepover. So already it was a win for me. I mean, my brother is a couple years older than me. And I get to go hang out with him and his friends. These are like older guys hanging out with them, and usually they're constantly joking around, and we were just they always made me laugh. So I was looking forward to a good time that night already. It didn't, and so I actually had no idea that we were going over there for a Bond movie thon, and so here is, I'm not kidding you, this is literally the first scene. We were kind of late. They had already started their Bond-thon. And so this is what I walked into for my first Bond experience. Watch this right here.
He had lots of guts.
So, of course, I was like, what is this? This is like amazing. All this action packed stuff going on. And we watched the rest of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. We watched the rest of the movie. And so I was pretty excited. I thought, wow, that this was really cool. So then they said, well, we've got two more. We rented three. We figured we would watch them. Well, they wanted to see that one so bad they didn't wait for us, but we got to see it again after because we watched two more movies, and then I remember saying, hey, can we watch that other one, that first one that we didn't get to see? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Because of course they see there's a generation out there that doesn't understand when you rented the VHS movies. And this is back when you could rent the machine. Like you hauled the machine out with you too. And you would go to the video stores and there was just a smell even to the video store. You'd walk in there and you could smell the VHS tapes. And I don't know what it was, but it was exciting going to a block. I don't even remember Blockbuster existing at that time when it first started. It was like, I don't know. There were other, it was just video, like these mom and pop video stores everywhere. Anyway, so we watched the end of that movie. The next movie they had rented was this one. So here we go. I'm seeing Diamonds Are Forever, my first full Bond movie. And some may say, well, boy, that's sure not my pick for the first Bond movie I would show someone. Well, let me just say, my appetite was whet from the first that little bit of ending that I got from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So I'm like, okay, so and the gun sequence, that was the first gun sequence I saw, because remember, I hadn't seen the beginning of the other one yet. And then here's Bond hunting down Blofeld. And this scene right here, I was hooked when in this part right here.
Get his gun.
Hold it! Get your hands up.
So that was, to me, I was like, oh my goodness, this is total cool spy stuff. Someone sticks their hand in my pocket, they're going to steal something from me. And I've got a big old mousetrap in there that's going to snap down on their fingers. I mean, I'm thinking that's awesome. I thought that was great. And then the rest of the movie I thought was pretty cool. The music, of course, really had me because I loved that style of music too. So I was all in. And then they said, okay, if you liked that one, like, you're going to love this one. Guess what the third Bond movie was that they had rented? I'll give you a minute. See if you guessed right, because here it is. This is the one that they rented, the third.
You're fading from my picture, Mr. Bond. But the end cannot be far away.
All right. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, because this one is right down the middle with this movie. You either absolutely love this one and think it's in your top 10, or you're like, it wasn't Roger Moore's best. I'm the Spy Who Loved Me fan. I'm a Live and Let Die fan. I liked early Moore. This one, For Your Eyes Only, oh my god, it blew my mind. Just blew my mind away. I had skiing Bond. I had diving Bond. I had Bond sneaking around, breaking into places. I'm I mean, and then that scene at the end where he's doing the mountain climbing and almost falls, and then he's got to use his shoestrings to as little footholds, and he's sliding it up. I mean, come on. When you're the age I was at, and this was some of the first Bond movies you've ever seen, I mean, just mind blowing to me. And the music, come on. I mean, the music for this movie was amazing. And then he's got the Lotus. He's driving that Lotus. What a cool car. Um, and I remember thinking, I can't believe that there's somebody that lives a life like this. And maybe this is kind of the scary part. We grew up kind of out in the woods. Um, I dreamt of big life. We had a small life out in the woods. We were poor. Um, not socialites, and didn't have a whole ton of friends. I mean, had a few, but they lived way far away. So getting together with them, like with my brother and his older friends, getting together with them, that was kind of hard because they lived a little bit of a distance away because we lived way out in the boonies. So to see someone living this grand, this big of a life, this adventurous of a life, that was almost like life altering for me to now have these movies where I could go to these places, I could see them, I could see these different cultures, and I could hear all this different music because I was beginning to. This was in the 80s, and where, of course, we're listening for Culture Club, Pet Shop Boys, Duran Duran. We're listening for all these groups to come out on the radio, the Eurythmics. Just waiting for these nuggets to get played on the radio, and waiting by the radio and clicking the record and play button on the cassette player on the radio and recording music free off the radio. So I mean, big times 80 music. But my taste in music was kind of starting to grow because I enjoyed some classical music. I especially enjoyed soundtrack music and the scores from the soundtracks. I would find like some soundtracks would come out for some of the 80s movies, and I'd be like, yeah, it's got these cool songs in there. But I was starting to listen more and more to the actual score of the movie with the whole orchestra behind it. And that kind of music really moved me. And that's how I was feeling with the Bond music. The score that was played along, and then you'd get the Bond theme, and then they would always it seemed like they would tie in the theme song into the score somehow a little bit, and it would have a part in it. I mean, these movies were really broadening my horizon as far as visiting different places on the planet. But then adventure, seeing somebody live an adventurous life, dangerous life. I would oftentimes kind of even like put myself in danger. Sometimes how I could to kind of like get myself out of it, like testing myself. If my life was in danger, could I escape? Like Bond escapes. Can I escape? Can I get out of this? So, yeah, that was pretty mind blowing for me. So that was my first Bond experience. On Her Majesty's Secret Service for just a little bit. Then the second movie was Diamonds Are Forever. And then For Your Eyes Only, which, of course, just to this day is actually still one of, you've seen me rank my movies, and For Your Eyes Only is way up there. For me, it was really something else. And that opener when he's got to escape, the helicopter, he's trapped in the helicopter, he climbs outside, regains control of the helicopter, and I got to see him get revenge on Blofeld, who had killed Tracy. Back in when I did see that, in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I got to see the very end. He gets married, and then his wife gets shot, and I'm like, wow, that was I was really sad when it happened, and then I got to see him get the revenge, all in that same night. So yeah, that was exciting, and I was hooked. When I found out there were more Bond movies. Every time we went to the store, the video store, and it was my turn to pick my movie, I was always picking a Bond movie. I think my first Bond movie that I rented when I got to pick one to rent was A View to a Kill. So I think that's the one that I remember renting. But then I was always renting some Bond movie. I think I probably rented all the Roger Moore ones first. And I would get one pick. So, we would rent movies maybe, a couple times a month or so. And of course, back then, when you rented a movie, you wanted to get your money's worth. And mom and dad, they were down with that. They're just like, hey, yeah, we just spent this money renting the machine, renting the VHS tapes with it. We're getting our money's worth. So the whole weekend was dedicated to movies. We would watch, everybody had rented one or two movies a piece. There were four of us. So I mean that we would watch movies all of Saturday, and then usually me and my brother were up early Sunday morning watching our movies again, and then sometimes Sunday night, and we're watching movies again. And if my parents wanted to see the ones that we had picked out, wanted to see it, we get to watch it a third time, fourth time. I mean, so I watched those Bond, when we rented them, I watched those Bond movies over and over again. So I do remember, I do remember getting Thunderball. I remember getting Goldfinger. Just every time I got to pick, it was my pick. That's what I usually picked. And then by the time I got through all caught up on all the Bond movies, I started picking other stuff. I would pick Karate Kid, stuff like that. But then I kind of always came back to the Bond movies. I would pick one of those. How my parents didn't get sick of it, I don't know. They must not have minded the Bond movies either. I don't think they particularly were like big fans, but they didn't mind it. I think maybe they thought, well, here's our son. He's a real big fan of this franchise, so they didn't mind, I guess. But so there you go. That's my first experience with Bond. And put in your comments, please. Put in the comments. I would love it if this video got shared. And people put in the comments your first Bond experience. That'd be cool, because I feel like there's a lot of similarities with some of the first experiences out there, but I think there's a lot of differences too, because we all, we've all lived different lives. We've all lived in different areas. We come from different backgrounds and cultures and languages. And je ne sais pas. C'est très intéressant, n'est-ce pas? So please, yes, put in your comments your first Bond experience, and I'd love to hear it. And I look forward to be known, hopefully seeing a bunch of comments show up. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for indulging me. I know I kind of dragged on the ending here. Sorry about that. We will see you in the next video. And until then, I think maybe in my next video, we might be playing some Guess the Movie by the Picture Frame Part 2. I think we might go with that one again, because that seemed like that was pretty fun. All right. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.